Have you ever met someone who simply shrugs when their birthday comes around? No excitement. No plans. No cake. No big celebration, just another ordinary day on the calendar. Maybe that person is a friend, a family member, or maybe it's you. While most people count down the days, plan parties, and expect gifts, some people move through their birthdays quietly, almost as if they'd rather skip it entirely. But have you ever wondered why? Why do some people treat their birthdays like a normal day? Is it just humility, or is there something deeper, something psychological, that shapes this seemingly simple choice? Today, we'll dive deep into the psychology of birthdays, exploring the emotional meaning behind this day, the hidden layers of personality and upbringing that influence how we celebrate, and what it really says about who we are. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might see birthdays, and yourself, in a completely new light. Before we continue, please subscribe, like this video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. Let's start at the surface. For many, birthdays symbolize joy, growth, and celebration. It's a day to be recognized, to feel seen and appreciated. But for others, that same attention can feel uncomfortable, overwhelming, or even meaningless. Psychologists say our relationship with our birthday often mirrors our relationship with self-worth. If someone doesn't celebrate their birthday, it's not necessarily because they dislike the day, but because the day reminds them of something they'd rather not feel. Some people grow up in environments where birthdays weren't celebrated at all. Maybe their parents couldn't afford gifts, or maybe emotional expression wasn't encouraged. Over time, they learned to lower their expectations. They trained themselves not to feel disappointed, so they stopped expecting joy from the start. Imagine a child who wakes up on their birthday, hoping for a small surprise, maybe a card, a song, or even just a hug, but the day passes like any other. No acknowledgement. No affection. That kind of moment leaves a mark, even if it's quiet and invisible. Years later, as adults, those same people often carry that learned emotional detachment. They might say, "I don't care about birthdays," but deep down, it's not indifference, it's protection. A way of shielding themselves from disappointment, rejection, or the reminder of emotional absence. This ties into attachment theory, one of psychology's core frameworks for understanding human relationships. People with avoidant attachment styles often downplay emotional occasions. They've learned that vulnerability, especially the kind that expects love or attention, can lead to pain, so they act as though it doesn't matter. Treating their birthday like a normal day becomes an act of control, a quiet statement that says, "I'm fine without it." But not everyone who avoids birthday celebrations does so because of pain. Some are simply wired differently. Introverts, for instance, often find birthdays draining because of the social expectations that come with them. The idea of being the center of attention, having to entertain guests, and navigating small talk can feel more like a performance than a celebration. For them, treating the day like any other isn't a sign of sadness, it's a form of peace, a quiet acknowledgement that joy doesn't always need an audience. They might prefer to reflect privately, maybe take a long walk, spend time reading, or do something meaningful alone. For introverts, birthdays can feel more sacred when they're personal, not public. But here's something fascinating, even introverts who claim they don't care about birthdays often remember how others made them feel on that day. It's less about the event, and more about emotional authenticity. They don't need a party, they just need to feel that their existence matters to someone, even in silence. Now, let's talk about emotional regulation and self-esteem. Some people avoid celebrating because they fear the pressure of being happy. Society paints birthdays as automatically joyful, the laughter, the photos, the balloons. But for someone who's going through a hard time, depression, grief, or even existential stress, that pressure can be unbearable. For them, pretending to be excited feels dishonest, so they do the opposite. They downplay it, making it just another day to avoid confrontation with their emotions. This isn't laziness or pessimism, it's emotional honesty. Sometimes, people who treat their birthday like a normal day are simply acknowledging where they are mentally, and that's okay. But then, there's another layer, the fear of time passing. Birthdays are not just celebrations, they're reminders, of aging, of change, of the silent ticking of time. For many adults, especially in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, birthdays can trigger subtle anxiety. They become checkpoints of comparison. Am I where I thought I'd be? Have I done enough? What have I really achieved? That internal dialogue can turn what's supposed to be a happy day into a mirror that reflects self-doubt. So rather than confront those questions, people simply normalize the day, not because they don't care, but because they care too much. They just can't bear to look at the reflection that birthday brings. Psychologists refer to this as existential avoidance, the tendency to minimize or suppress reminders of life's transience and mortality. It's not that they don't want to celebrate, they just want to escape the reminder that time is moving faster than they'd like. Then there are those who find meaning in detachment and minimalism. For some, choosing not to celebrate their birthday isn't about pain or anxiety, it's about perspective. They see life as a continuous flow, not something that should be punctuated by artificial milestones. They believe that gratitude, self-reflection, and joy should be daily practices, not reserved for one date a year. These are often people who've experienced personal growth, spiritual awakening, or deep philosophical insight. They no longer seek validation through ritual, instead, they find peace in the ordinary. They treat their birthday like a normal day, not because they devalue it, but because they've transcended the need for it. Still, there's something profoundly human about wanting to be remembered. Even those who say they don't care about birthdays often light up quietly when someone remembers. When a friend sends a simple message or a loved one says, "Hey, I'm glad you were born." That small moment can mean more than a grand party. It's not about the celebration, it's about connection. The psychology of birthdays isn't really about the day, it's about acknowledgement. About whether we believe we matter enough to be celebrated, and whether we allow ourselves to receive love without fear. There's another subtle aspect here: control and independence. For people who've spent much of their life relying on themselves, birthdays can feel unnecessary. They might think, why wait for others to make me feel special when I can do that every day? That mindset is empowering, but it can also hide emotional isolation. When you've been hurt enough times, it's easier to celebrate quietly alone than risk feeling forgotten again. The emotional meaning of birthdays, in many ways, becomes a reflection of how safe we feel being seen. Those who treat it like a normal day might actually crave connection, but on their own terms. Now, let's flip the perspective. What if treating your birthday like a normal day isn't avoidance, but maturity? As people age, priorities shift. The excitement of gifts and parties often gives way to reflection. Instead of "what will I get?" the question becomes, "what have I learned?" Psychologically, this represents emotional integration, the ability to find contentment in simplicity. A person who wakes up on their birthday, drinks their morning coffee, and smiles at the sunrise without posting it online isn't missing joy, they're quietly experiencing it. In that moment, they've found peace with themselves, no need for validation, no need for applause, just presence. Yet, there's something universal here we can't ignore. Whether you celebrate loudly or quietly, whether you crave parties or peace, your birthday is still a reminder that you exist, that you've survived another year of laughter, heartbreak, growth, and change. The psychology of birthdays teaches us that how we respond to them says less about the day, and more about the stories we carry within. If you treat your birthday like a normal day, maybe it's because you learned self-reliance, maybe it's because you're healing, or maybe it's because you've realized that your worth doesn't need one day to be seen. So next time your birthday comes around, don't feel guilty for not wanting a party, and don't feel ashamed for wanting one, either. Both choices are valid. What matters most is awareness, understanding the why behind your feelings, because when you understand that, you reclaim power over your own emotional narrative, and perhaps, that's the real celebration, quiet self-awareness, the kind that doesn't need confetti to feel whole. So, whether you blow out candles or not, remember this: your existence is worth acknowledgement, every single day, because maybe, the most beautiful way to celebrate your birthday is simply by being at peace with who you are.